All right, welcome to Bookkeepers on Fire, where bookkeeping becomes bold, human, and transformational. I'm Donna Reed, together with my co host, Debbie Kilsheimer. We shine a light on the bookkeepers, the experts, the behind the scenes heroes who keep business moving. So here's the thing, the show is about you, our guest, our listener, and our partner raising the bar. We believe you deserve to be proud, confident, and seen in your craft. So each week we'll bring you inspiring stories, deep insights, actionable takeaways from bookkeepers who have stepped into leadership with heart led service. So we listen to your why, elevate your voice, and give you tools into your value. And yes, we'll talk automation workflows, but always through the lens of human connection. So if you're ready to lead, serve with conviction and compassion, to rebrand your profession and your role, you're in the right place. And our guest today is William Murphy, otherwise known as Murph, with
Woohoo!
Insightful Accountant, who is on the same mission that we have too. And we're honored to have him, and we can't wait for you to meet him too.
Oh, I'm thrilled he's here. I mean, how long have I known you, Murph? I feel like my whole entire accounting
At
career.
at least 20 years, yeah.
I know.
Yeah, at
Oh,
least 20 years.
I mean, you've always been like a superstar to me, and the fact that you have, taken a half hour to be on our show is really thrilling. And we just found out today, Donna and I, that this is your very first time being on a podcast.
Absolutely, it is. And I've never done a podcast even for Insightful Accountant, so I'm happy to be here because tomorrow I am going to do my very first Insightful Accountant podcast.
I
Yep.
mean, I would think that you had been asked to be on every podcast that ever was.
It's finding the time to do all the things that I have to do. You know, Uh, years ago, I was supposed to write about 4 articles a week, and now I write about 16 articles a week.
For all
And
for insightful accountant?
yeah, most of them. And I I attend at least 2 webinars or events a week. I always have at least 1 or 2 briefings a week that I have to participate in. So um, yeah, I stay plenty busy.
And yeah, and how do you come up with your ideas for these
Oh,
articles?
they just pop into my mind. I mean, no, we actually every year, um, in the month of October, typically, Gary and I sit down and we build an editorial calendar that focuses on the major topics we want to cover, all based around one of 2 resources. Either the individual surveys that we send out through the year asking people, what do you want to know more about? What would you like to see, etc. And also all of the data we get back from the ProAdvisor application process for top 100. You cannot believe the wealth of data that provides. And each year, another part of my job is once that process is over, I have to go through and produce a report for both Gary and Bob that outlines all of the metrics associated with our pro advisors from that year. And that report usually ends up being about 80 to 90 pages in length.
Wow. Well,
Uh,
let's talk about who Gary and Bob are so everybody knows. Gets Gary
Yeah.
DeHart and Bob Allard, right?
yes, Gary is the founding partner for Insightful Accountant. He's the quote unquote publisher of our product. And Bob, at one time, worked for Joe and then came over to our side of the house.
Joe Woodard.
Right, Joe Woodard. And he's in charge of marketing, but also what we call partner development, which is to help people build partner programs. And when I say people, I'm talking predominantly developers, people who become our advertisers, etc. We've got a group of support people, but I make up the third side of the nut, and that's being pretty well in charge of. most things that are editorial. Um, I tried to I tried to slide back a few years ago and do a little less, but it doesn't seem.
That didn't work. I remember the time at Scaling when you retired.
Yeah.
I
Uh-huh.
mean, what a tearjerker day that was. We're all bawling our eyes out. And then I saw you. I go, "What are you doing here? I thought you left." Oh no, I'm still here.
Well,
And we went, "Yay!"
there were about 3 years that I attended a lot fewer events because at that time I was going through um, an inflammation of my Parkinson's, and I wasn't responding to medications. And it took about 2 years for actually 3 different doctors I went through till they got me where I'm in fairly good shape. I
Oh,
mean,
great.
I still have a few days that are not so great, but the vast majority of my
And
days
you take
are
care of your brother
good.
too. Your brother has a heart issue.
He has a mechanical heart. $6 million worth of equipment stuck in the middle of his chest. Yeah, and
And you
I
take your
am his
brother on
caregiver.
trips.
Do what?
You take your brother with you on
Oh,
trips.
oh yes. Sometimes I take him with me on trips. We'll do a driving trip.
Yeah.
Uh, Trying to go on the plane doesn't work. We have been on a train trip once. That worked okay, but the train doesn't go a lot of places from Oklahoma City, so we wind up having to go to Fort Worth and then connect somewhere else and then somewhere else. And yeah,
I know because I know like you were here and you drove here in Orlando. You stayed with Vic and Laura for a
yes.
while. Vic Madera and Laura Madera they live in Florida down the Villages.
And
And
I just saw them a couple of weeks
yeah,
ago
I heard they're
because
in town.
I had gone to another conference, and so when I got ready to leave, my flight got canceled 4 times, and so I just decided I was going to drive home. So I rented a car, and I stayed the first night with Laura and Vic, and then I drove on home. Yeah.
Now, did Vic cook for you?
No, we went to dinner that night.
Okay. I mean, I remember I think it was St. Louis, or where was it? I don't remember, where he cooked a big, huge pig and had everybody over. San Antonio. Oh, it was,
He is quite the chef. Yes, I've eaten a lot of Vic's meals, and
oh,
yeah.
it was beautiful. I mean, I think there must have been 50 people there, and it was fabulous. It was just, it was fabulous. I mean, that's the best thing about this whole profession is all of us getting together at a conference and, having a good time, seeing each other. It's like we've never left after another year of being apart, you know. But so, what is your background? How did you even get involved in the accounting space?
Well, it's kind of a long story, but you'll just have to bear with me.
Okay.
Um,
Right, we're good.
uh, Believe it or not, my first job out of high school was going to work for a funeral home, and they were still in the ambulance business. Uh, and As a result of that, I met a doctor friend of mine, or a doctor who became a friend of mine, and he suggested that um, I go to medical school. Well, started college, and about a year or so into that, he sent me a notice saying that OU was starting a new program, uh, and that the first year had been successful, and that he recommended that I just jumpstart my career by going to physician assistant school. So I went to PA school, and when I got out, I thought I was going to start practicing as a PA, and unbeknownst to me, the local hospital administrator had issued an edict that there would be no PAs and no nurse practitioners in their hospital.
Why?
What the
Well,
heck?
What a joke.
he just felt like there shouldn't be anybody practicing medicine that wasn't a doctor, even if you were under direct supervision, which I would have been.
I think some of my PAs are better than my doctors.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
so during that time, I also went to paramedic school. And so I started job hunting, and I wound up going to work down at the Dallas Fort Worth area. I worked at Parkland Hospital. I worked over in Fort Worth, and I trained paramedics for the Dallas Fire Department, and also for the Fort Worth EMS system, and worked in the Parkland ER. And then a few years later, I decided that I was going to come back to OU, go ahead, get my MD, and also get a PhD in or medical research. And I started back at OU, was accepted into a PhD program, what they call a combined MD PhD program. And the third year into that, I thought, well, I've got about another year left to do my research project. And when I talked to my advisor, he says, "You're a few years off there." He says, "It's probably going to take you about 6 years to do your research and for me to be satisfied with it, etc." And I thought, I'm not going to spend that much time.
Yeah.
But what I had also done is taken some classes in health economics, and I had kind of done an internship at another hospital in their business office. And that was about the time that the federal government decided they were going to migrate Medicare to something they called DRGs, diagnostic related groups. They were no longer going to pay for services, they were going to pay on the basis of a diagnosis, a flat fee. And it was going to really do a topsy turvy. And so the guy that was supervising the health economics courses suggested that in order to understand the financial impacts, I should take some accounting. And so I went down to the main campus and took some accounting and got involved in accounting indirectly out of healthcare. And the next thing you know, I wind up and I'm working with an entity on creating a self insured health plan and self administered health plan and setting it up so that it was financed offshore.
Wow.
And so the result of that was I learned the offshore financing business, something called segregated portfolio companies. And I worked in that for a few years, and I kind of saw what the IRS was doing, and I said, well, I better get out of this. And so I got out of that, and I was working, and I was about to retire for the first time. And I actually had owned a place on the White River in Arkansas. I went over and thought, I'm going to become a professional guide for trout fishing. And, and after about 6 months, I was so bored at doing that, I had to come back. And believe it or not, I had been using QuickBooks, and I got a announcement about the release of Enterprise.
Okay.
And they were having some big event out in Tucson about the release of Enterprise. And a salesman called me and he says, would you be interested in upgrading this Enterprise or at least trying it? And I said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll upgrade to it if you'll get me free tickets to this event you're having out there. And so the next thing I know, I'm going to this event out there, and one of the discussions was about the new ProAdvisor program.
Uh-huh.
And so I decided I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna get into pro advising. And after a few years of doing that, I decided, this thing is a mess, and I've got to figure out how you fix these messes. And that was right after Intuit quit using the original database that they were using, and they migrated to Sybase. And so I decided I'd take Sybase training. And I took about 4 or 6 courses in Sybase, and that's really how I got into doing data repair and breaking the file apart and doing those kinds of things.
Because
And
I would attend your classes at the conferences, and I would go, I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, every other word. I'm
well,
literally
you
want to
know,
become a barista at Starbucks.
there there were about 3 or 4 people who got down to that level, and I think Matt Clark's about the only one that's still doing any of that. Of course, as the number of desktop files goes
Right,
away, the number of problems
Mhm.
for desktop files goes away.
right,
So it's not much of a business anymore, I wouldn't think.
right.
But um, and then it just came along that I had been writing, answering so many questions in the QuickBooks forum, and I just decided I'm going to quit doing that. And Joe had started his group, and so I started answering questions over there. And for like 3 years in a row, uh, he says, "My gosh, the first year you answered 15,000 questions."
Yeah,
He said, "We got to give you the VIP award,"
yeah.
and so you know it was kind of that way for the first few years. And then the next thing I know, he's saying, "Well, would you write a blog for me once a week?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I probably can." And then 2 weeks later, he calls and he says, "Well, I found this guy. Maybe we'll try doing something a little different than just a blog." And so that's when Gary kind of got involved in it. And then the next thing I know, it's okay, we're going to start this thing and we're going to write every day, have at least one story every day. And we're going to start it come January 1st. And between now and then, you need to write some stuff so we have some articles when we start up that people can read. No problem. That's 6 months away, 7 months away, 8 months away, something like that. And the next thing I hear is, "Oh, we've changed our mind. We're gonna announce it at scaling in
I
June.
remember that. I
We're
remember
gonna
the.
announce it at scaling in June, and it's gonna go live that very day.
I remember.
And and guess what? You've got to have at least 60 articles written between now and then, so that when we go live, there's 60 articles in there." And I'm going, "That's 4 weeks from now. I've got to write 60 articles in 4 weeks."
Right. I remember
But
that was such
I
a
did
big
it.
deal. Remember, we were coming down the elevator at scaling, and at the bottom was a mat that said, like a mat you would get off on, and said something about "wait for the announcement. It's coming. It's coming." And so the other one day we come down, and it was the insightful accountant had been announced.
And I didn't even go because I told them, if we have problems, I cannot solve the problems if I'm at the conference. I
Right.
have to be somewhere where I can actually deal with the backside, because this was a new platform. Nobody had ever used it before. It was not WordPress, so therefore almost nobody knew anything about it. And we'd already experienced issues, so I didn't go to the conference. But I think I was either they had some kind of an audio
Yeah, they always.
or
Yeah, you've been at every conference in one way or another. You
so.
know. You know, and the big thing is your big thing now is the not just helping. And then you and Gary split off Insightful Accountant into your own thing, apart from Joe.
It was always its own corporation. At one time, Joe had some ownership interest in it, which then he migrated to Bob, and that's where Bob's financial interest came. Was however they exchanged. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. And so now it's its own thing, and you have the Insightful Accountant, and I have every single article. Donna kind of teases me because I'm an email hoarder. Um, I have never deleted one of
It's
my
bad.
Insightful
It's
account
bad.
articles that I way back when you
I'm
first
with
started.
you. I'm with you there. I have like 15 million emails. The only thing I delete is the actual junk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, one day I might want to read the article from the first time you ever wrote it. But I have them all. But that's great. So now it's its own thing, and you just started a premium membership program. That was about a year ago. You started that.
Yes. The premium membership program is driven around the fact that people wanted more in depth content than really is possible to do during traditional settings. And so many of the webinars that they do over there are like 90-minute long webinars. And then many of them even have a follow up webinar. One of the issues, always is that you present all this content and people are asking questions and you can't possibly get to all those questions. And people have to really think about the content before they can truly ask a meaningful question. And so we decided what we're going to do is let people hear the content, capture all their questions, then like 4 or 5 days later, we'll have another program where they can log in and we'll talk about questions, etc. And then some people said, well, let's present content, but then we'll actually do like laboratory over in these additional sections, etc. Um, and so now we're even developing written content for the membership program. There's been at least 3 or 4 programs where I've written in depth what we call blue papers. That might be anywhere from 35 to 70 pages in length, covering content in depth. In some cases, that's app comparisons. In some cases, it's how to's. In other cases, it is really what I'll call almost like an expanded version of when we used to do first look features. Uh, a first look feature used to typically be around 3,000 to 4,000 words. We've got some features now that are like 8,000 words long that look at products more in depth.
Yeah, because we've done some of those product ones together, both you and
Yes,
I.
we have. Yep.
Yeah, we had. What was the one we did where we had the boxing match?
Was that
That was the payroll one.
payroll? That was
That was
payroll
fun.
app comparison. Yeah.
Yeah, we did a payroll app comparison, and
Actually, what we did was you and I did the best of payroll app comparison. I'd actually done the payroll app comparison that had like 20 apps, and we picked like maybe 8 or 9 that you and I did the best of. Yeah.
that was a lot of fun.
So,
And then we've done another one, I think, on workflow, and we've done QB talks, and we've done a lot of them together. It's been a lot of fun.
yeah. And I'm going to give you a hint. I can't actually announce this yet, but you're going to see an expansion of QB Talks in the coming year. That's
Okay.
all I'll say. Is you're going to see
Okay.
an expansion of QB Talks in the coming year.
Great. And I
And
know, and Gary Don and I are both teaching a year-long class. Don is teaching it on AI, and I'm teaching it on building your business, once a month. I know I had my first one last month on Business Manifesto. And Donna, yours starts December or January?
January, but that might be part of the stuff that he's not announcing yet.
Oh,
We're all good.
So on the 17th of this month is our regular QB Talks, and Intuit is sending us a guest to present their new Books Close feature within the new Intuit Accountant
sweet.
suite
Mm-hmm.
that will eventually replace QBO Accountant. And it's during that QB Talks that we'll give you all the details about
Oh,
the
okay.
expansion of QB Talks
Okay. Well, keep
for
Don and me in mind if
2026.
we need,
So
co-hosts.
and so yeah, it it's going to provide an avenue for us to also deal with some issues that we it's just gotten too cumbersome to try to fit everything into the existing format. Yeah,
Right. Well, your big love though is the ProAdvisor Top 100.
it absolutely is, and that is another story. And I know that you've heard that. I'll kind of mention a few aspects of it. Shortly after we began Insightful Accountant, Gary and Joe both called me up one day and they said, we've been cleared by Intuit to start offering awards to pro advisors. And I'm going, what? And they said, yeah, we want to have an awards program for pro advisors. And we want you to figure out how to do that. And I'm going, so you want me to figure out how to pick from, at the time, roughly what we were led to believe was 110,000 pro advisors in the United States. You want me to figure out how to pick 100 pro advisors out of 110,000 and then pick one out of the 100 to be the pro advisor of the year? And they said, exactly.
Of course.
We want
Of
you
course
to
they did. Yes.
we want you to do that. And I just scratched my head and said, I'll figure out something. I don't know what it'll be. And they said, and we have to pass it all by into it and get them to basically
Mhm.
say, you have our blessing. Well, immediately, the people that I talked to over there said the key thing is we don't want anyone to say that this is driven like the ISP awards where it's based on sales. We don't want anyone to say that it's subjectively based as to who knows who or who nominated who,
Mhm.
etc. Uh, we want it to all be objective. We want there to be some way of doing this from an objective standpoint. And so, again, I'm scratching my head going, okay, how do I do that? Well, as it happens, a good friend of mine, and if I get a little emotional, you have to understand that this friend of mine, she passed away about 7 or 8 months after this event took place um, from breast cancer. And she said, I want you to go to what probably will be my final dog show. I didn't even know that she showed her dog, but she did show her dog. And so we went down to Dallas and went to a dog show. And while we were there, her dog didn't make best in breed even, but we stayed for the rest of the show and we watched the group competition for all the best breeds in each group get picked. And then one gets picked out of that group. And then ultimately, the best in show where each of the best dogs from the groups go into the arena and a judge selects first through fourth place. And on the way home, um, it just a light comes on in my head, and I'm going, now how exactly does that? I mean, how does that judge decide? I mean, how do you rate a poodle against an Afghan hound? Or how do you rank a cockapoo against you know, a giant schnauzer or
Yeah.
this, that, or the other?
Mhm.
And my friend said, you don't. The dogs are not ever compared, even in the breed, are never compared against the other dogs. They're always compared against a written standard. And the judge has to know all those standards and decide based on this standard, this dog comes more closely to meeting 100% of the standard than this dog comes to meeting this standard for this breed. And based on that, that's the rankings. And that's how it gets picked.
Oh, yeah.
And
That makes a lot of sense.
and
Oh, yeah.
I said, well, it's easy enough to look at the curriculums for ProAdvisor and look at what ProAdvisors are doing and sit down and write standards based on those things, uh, you know, and look at the various apps and how people are using apps, etc. And I said, we can make the types of ProAdvisors into categories like the uh, American Kennel Club groups, and we can then use that set of standards and we'll develop a tool that basically says, you tell us how you're meeting these standards. By answering these questions, you tell us how you're meeting these standards.
So have you
And
decided the standards?
uh, well, basically, I sat down and wrote standards, and then we have a committee, and the committee said, sounds reasonable to us. And so, we have these standards and we update them from time to time based on what Intuit is doing with respect to the. And originally, when we started, the the top 100 was composed of 10 people from each of the 10 categories. It is no longer that way today because of the kind of the emphasis on product. And so uh, the number of allocated spots to QBO is greater than QuickBooks Desktop because
Mhm.
that's the proportionality of where the product is going. Uh, Same way with, you know, QuickBooks Enterprise, and now we have QBO Advanced, et cetera, et cetera. So those dynamics changed a little, but generally the standards have been pretty much the same since day one. We measure professional credentials. We measure how your practice is based and organized in terms of the number of clients and percentage of clients that represent each of the various products, et cetera, and the kinds of work you do on those products, whether you do cleanup or whether you, do payroll or this, that, or the other, et cetera. And how you use apps, what those apps are used, what those apps are used for from a standpoint of, do you use this app yourself? Do you recommend this app? Do you help your client implement this app? Do you get certified in this app? Are you recognized by the installer as a partner or a designated authorized implementer, etc.? And for each of those, you get more points based on all that stuff. Everything's point driven. Um, and the only subjective criteria is when it comes time to vote. And the vote is the peers representation of what they think about the people who are on the ballot.
Okay. Oh, is
And
that
what I,
when you list out when you send out these are the 200
right,
people, and then we get to pick
right. And you know what I attribute that to?
what?
The applause in the dog arena. It's the same, it has the same effect. And while it's not supposed to have any real effect to the judge, you know that it must. I mean, if everybody in the arena is clapping about this Dosh Hound,
Yeah.
you know, it's got to have some emphasis. And that's what we give it is some. 2% of the total number of votes
So
is
does it behoove, if we want
come
to win
from
that
the
top
vote.
award, if we want to win that top award, does it behoove us to like, please vote, please vote, please vote? So,
Yes, that's the one place that does work is it can elevate that tiny bit of
all
score.
right, Donna, we got some work to do.
So,
Oh yeah, we'll have a whole
uh,
episode on that.
but
But really,
that's the
it's
only
very
that is the
Yeah.
only subjective aspect. Now, what I want to say is the 2026 awards are currently open. There's two paths. One path is to get nominated. And when we started these awards 16 years ago, um, about 90% of people were nominated and then they went on and filled out their application. Today, only about 10% of people are nominated. About 90% just skip the nomination, go straight to applying. And that's perfectly fine.
yeah.
Now, while it may give you a little flutter to your heart to know that you were nominated or that you nominate someone else, and that certainly is a path, you cannot earn one of these awards without going through the application process. And we've tried to streamline that in a couple of ways, especially this year for the first time. One is that you have the option now. At one time, we used to have a short form. That didn't really work too well for us because we had no way of carrying over the data from the year before. But now we do. And so you have the option to carry over your data from last year into this year's form. Now, it doesn't fill out the form, it just has you skip the portions that we can carry over.
Like, what would be an example of that?
So, for example, if you haven't had a change in your education, if you haven't had a change in your association memberships, if you haven't had a change in those things we call professional credentialing, um, then, you know, if you select those options, we don't even ask you about those things. There are a few areas that when we ask you that, even though that broad section doesn't have to be answered, there's still maybe one question within it. And so it says, do you want to supplement this question? And, you know, if you do that, then you have the potential of earning more points there than you did the year before if you supplement it. If, for example, if you say, my firm grew by more than 10%, okay, we you might have been able to skip that, but you have the option to check it and say, yeah, my firm grew by 40% last year or this year. So um, that's one way. We used to, it used to take me months and months and days on end to keep track of everything everybody was offering in the way of training, not only in the United States, but all across the world for our international applicants so that they could check the box to say, oh, I took that. We're no longer doing that. This year, You just tell us what you took.
Now, when
And
you say
who's
we tell you like that, does that mean I attended an AI class at Scaling New Heights at 8 o'clock in the morning, or I went to Scaling New Heights and I attended?
and so you have that option. If you put down, I went to Scaling New Heights and I went from this state to this state, this is who sponsored it, and this is the total number of hours, then that's all you have to list. You don't have to list each individual class.
Oh, well, that's good because I was
Okay.
Yeah.
keeping track of that, and I'm like, oh my god.
And it's the same with apps this year. Last year we had over 700 apps worldwide in all three of our application forms that people completed, and I'm trying to figure out what what apps are used in which country and this, that, or the other, and so on and so forth. And this year we just ask you, you tell us what apps you use, how you use it, how you support it, whether you're certified, whether you're recognized as a partner or a implementer. And so we're trying to make it as easy as possible. It, each of those lists start with like 20, but then if you have more at the bottom, you check, I have more than 20, and it turns on another block of 20 that you can fill out. And it does that for like, I think maybe 80. Yeah.
And
And
you
if
spot
somebody's,
check them. I mean, so don't think you can cheat on this because you check them out.
yeah, we have a random process of analyzing the data. The more data you submit, the more likely you're to get
Picked. Picked. You're
a random
going to get
hit.
audited. It's like the
Yeah.
richer people get audited. You know.
Right. Yeah.
Well, that's good though because you don't want a cheater to win. You know.
And we do have an arrangement with Intuit to verify credentials, even if you don't have your ProAdvisor profile turned on. We still have an arrangement with Intuit to be able to verify
Yeah.
credentials.
Well, I think it's great. And
The
how long?
the world over again.
Yeah.
You know.
Mhm.
How long has the program been around?
Well, this will be our 15th year of actually awarding.
So if you've won it every year, this will be your 15th time to win it.
y- uh, yes, I think that's correct.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been honored to win it every year.
So,
And I remember the year I was in top 10. It was very exciting. I was in 2015 in New Orleans, and you were trying to find. I got a phone call. It was like walking outside, and I get the phone rings. It says Oklahoma. And I'm like, who's calling me from Oklahoma? I picked it up, and it was you. And he go, Debbie, yeah, who's this? This is Murph. Murph. He goes, where are you? I said, I'm in New Orleans. Well, where are you in New Orleans? I said, well, I'm at the conference. Well, where in the conference? Well, I'm like walking the hallways. Get in here. You're top 10. You need to be on stage left. I'm like, what? What? So I ran in. I go, I didn't know what stage left was. But I see Laura, Michelle Long and Laura Madeira and, all the, I think Mario was there. I thought, must be that group. So, and then Hal was there. He was at the hotel, and I called Joe and I said, could I get my husband to see me win this award? So he let my husband come in, and my son texts me. He goes, "What are you doing?" I'm going to win top 10. He goes, "What's that mean?" I said, "There's 200 pro advisors, and that means I'm better than 199,090 of them." I was so excited to win it, and that was the year I ran on the stage and jumped up and down.
I could see that happening.
Yeah, it was fun.
I wasn't there then, but I could see it.
Oh, it was great. It's been an honor every year, and I always look forward to that award ceremony at Scaling.
So
And
I think we put a link to the
yeah,
what we are calling the awards portal. We started that this year
Mhm.
also, one place where you can go, and from there you can pick whether you're going to apply or whether you're going to nominate somebody. I'll also mention that this year we slightly changed names. You'll notice the overall name is the Top Advisor Awards, and that's because we also created a new round of awards based on Intuit's what they call the Intuit Academy. We have the ProAdvisor Academy for
Mhm.
ProAdvisors, but they have an Intuit Academy that teaches a
Mhm.
whole group of tax classes,
Yes.
and
Mhm.
we
Yeah.
I've
are
taken those. They're very good.
we're we created an award category for that. It goes through the same process, and we'll be recognizing a group of people for the tax awards this year.
That's
But it
great.
because they don't have
Mhm.
to be pro advisors, um,
Right.
it just didn't sound right to refer to the awards overall as the Pro Advisor Awards and then have a group of people
Right.
within it that weren't pro advisors. So,
Well, I hope everybody
Oh,
fills out
nice.
their application because you cannot win the award unless you fill it out. So, take the time and do it because it's a real honor, and you can, put that on your. You get a little, I don't know, but it's a real. It'll make you feel good,
Yep.
So do it.
Take the time.
Take
It's
the time
long,
to do
but
it.
take the time to go through it. You don't have to
Yeah,
do it all at one sitting either.
right. Well, we're way past time.
Oh yeah, we went way past, but that's all right.
That's okay. So again, we want to thank you, Murph, for coming on and sharing your wisdom with us, and was great finding about how you got started in this crazy industry. And thank you for sharing about how we can all become top 100 advisors now.
yep.
And Donnie, you want to sign us off?
Absolutely. Well, thanks for watching Bookkeepers on Fire today. We're so glad you were here, Murph, and talked about. We learned so much. Oh my gosh, I'm still processing it all.
Yeah,
But if you're a bookkeeper ready to lead, to serve, to ignite change, hit subscribe, share this, and stay tuned. Until next time, stay fired up and intentional. And thank you so much for joining
Thanks
us
for having me.
today.
Oh, great having you. Thank you.
Bye bye.